S.D. Boyan.
This is the Doc with SilverDoctors.com. We're pleased to welcome back our good friend Harvey Organ of the Harvey Organ Report tonight.
How you doing, Doc?
Doing great. It's great to talk to you again, Harvey. Let's start right off with the metals tonight. Gold and silver had big moves this week already, both taking out significant resistance. Gold at 1650, silver at 30, both now above their respective 200-day moving averages. Futures analyst Dan Norsini recently stated he's sensing a big sea change in the commodities markets, that some of the big players are sensing some serious inflation and are shifting into commodities. Do you think we're starting to, or witnessing the start of a historic rally here, Harvey?
No question. No question. The key was really what happened when Naylor Leland discovered that this big purchase of silver had to be settled inside the LBMA. And basically, is it can't get out because there isn't any. Okay, and that's a real crisis. I've always stated, and I've stated this to the commissioners at the CFTC, that the moment London is out, the COMEX will be out in a nanosecond. It'll just travel over to this side of the pond just as quickly as possible, and could cause the default of the COMEX. And this is why you're seeing massive movements of silver from the vaults all over the place. Okay, every day you're seeing 1 million coming in, 1 million leaving, and whenever you start seeing that, then you know there's trouble. And it's Peter robbing Paul to pay somebody else, and it's just going on and on and on. And it's now coming home to roost. And our friends, the bank, JP Morgan, has got their hands full trying to solve this thing.
For those who aren't familiar with that Ned Naylor Leland piece that you mentioned, he was on the Kaiser Report last night, Wednesday, I believe it was, and he talked to Max Kaiser about the massive physical strains in the silver market, and he mentioned specifically two large silver purchases in London, and we're talking large in like the 5 to 10 million ounce range, that essentially the LBMA is refusing to deliver outside of the LBMA system. So those are two case reports from Ned Naylor Leland. I've also personally heard from Andrew McGuire that he recently attempted to source around 10 million ounces of silver for a client out of London. And when the metal was finally delivered from Scotiabank after weeks of delay, apparently it was clearly sourced from the SLV.
Yes. Eric Sprott still hasn't got his silver yet. I can't remember exactly how much, but he's still short on his order. So he hasn't completed it yet. This was as of last week. That's what I'm just telling you. It's a tremendous physical shortage out there. And it's reflected now in the price rising. And the price of silver you'll notice that it's rising right to it's closing at its top at the COMEX closing, which is also very good. So even though from 12 o'clock to 1:30 is really a paper market, it doesn't matter. Guys are going in like crazy and bidding this thing up, which is a good sign. Now, of course, today I expect a little raid tomorrow. The bankers are trying to quell the huge demand, so I expect them a little, try to get the price down, because the shortfall for Morgan is just annihilating them. See, they got problems on their interest rate swaps, which are killing them. See, they have the trillions of interest rate swaps, in that they are short the 10-year Treasury of the United States, the Treasuries, and that's hurting them because of the rate of movement of the yield. Caught them off guard, so they lost on that. They lost on their IG9, we call the London whale thing, and now the rise in silver short. So you got three whammos against them, and they're sweating bullets, and it's certainly reflecting now in the silver and gold price.
And Ted Butler has recently analyzed the COT data, as he always does, and he's come to the conclusion that the other commercials have kind of turned on JP Morgan, and that they had been kind of colluding with J.P. Morgan. It looks like to Ted Butler that the other commercials have kind of turned on the lead dog in the pack of J.P. Morgan and are essentially taking it to them.
Wouldn't you? I mean, they're all trying for their survival. I mean, they're Ted Butler calls them the raptors. It's the lesser of the two major guys in the silver and the gold are HSBC and J.P. Morgan. They're the kingpins. HSBC out of London, of course, J.P. Morgan here. And now the other guys are saying, hey, we got to survive ourselves. And you can just see them going in themselves and purchasing. And you'll notice on the COMEX, you'll notice that silver, the open interest goes different than gold. And while the open interest in gold is near its low for 3 years, the open interest in silver is high, is near its record. And this will explain why there's certain guys in the know that are taking on our boys, our two major guys. And this is why it's very exciting to watch. Even as a matter of fact, the SLV went up for the first time in quite a while today. I saw, what did it go? I think it went up 1.5 million ounces today, which is unusual. Gold has been rising every day at the GLD, but silver is certainly going. I don't even think it's real. It's really paper stuff that's going in there. I don't think there's anything there. But that's a different matter. I've always stated that the SLV and the GLD are absolute frauds.
Right. The last time we talked, you kind of made the statement that the GLD's inventory had been rehypothecated from the Bank of England and Arab investors, and I'm not sure if you caught afterwards, but we talked to Ned Naylor-Leland a few weeks later. We kind of found a little bit of evidence of that. He mentioned that the Bob Pisani's famous GLD bar that he held up on CNBC, that Zero Hedge came out and revealed that it wasn't on the GLD's bar list. Ned Naylor-Leland advised us that it was actually owned by the ETFS security ETF, and right. I actually went into their bar list, and I actually found that bar that Bob Pisani held up. So that
I didn't know that. So that bar has been rehypothecated over and over, and that's what I feel is if they open up their vaults, that's what you're going to see. You're going to just see nothing but paper notes and paper obligations, and they're going to open up, and the poor shareholders, when this thing implodes, they're going to end up with pieces of nothing.
Right. That bar was actually owned by another fund.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we talk a little bit? I'm sure you've seen Mitt Romney's statement. He came out and said that he was against QE3, the original QE, QE2, and that if given the opportunity, he's going to fire Bernanke if he's elected.
Yes.
Jim Sinclair stated tonight that this actually is majorly bullish for gold, and that the statement speaks, and I'll quote here, for huge stimulus, fast, and an end of the standoff between the Federal Reserve and the U.S. legislature. So, Harvey, in terms of the next election, how do you foresee the presidential election affecting the Fed's monetary policy decisions?
How it would affect their mind? Well, that's a toughie. That really is a toughie because I think these two guys are really of the same cloth. The guy that's really they have to watch is, of course, Ron Paul. Do I think? There's no question that Obama wants stimulation. He needs it. And the two guys who are very oriented toward stimulation are the New York guy, the New York Fed, and the Chicago, Evans. Is it Evans? I'm thinking it's Evans, the guy from Chicago. And these are two money centers, and they really want stimulation, but good. They need it. And in order to get reelected, he's certainly going to need it. Right, because that's how he is. You print massive amounts of money, and that certainly gets the economy up, hopefully, and it will translate into vote. Whereas Romney has now decided, for the first time today, he's going to be against Bernanke, which now Bernanke is now going to stimulate the economy because he wants to keep his job. So you're definitely going to have. And when I say the word, QE3, they're already doing it. It's really the official versus unofficial. Okay, and the reason is the United States has already a 1.6 trillion deficit, and nobody is buying. Japanese are not buying any bonds. Europe cannot buy any bonds. They got troubles over there. Everybody's having trouble. So what's actually happening is it's probably purchased through the swaps or through the dealer funds, and then they're buying it back, okay, and they're hiding it off balance sheet. So the United States really are doing it. So the question is are they going to put it on their balance sheet or just keep it off their balance sheet? And if everybody, and of course the public or the press just keep hiding this from everybody. They probably know the truth, but just don't tell anybody. So I think it's important to everybody to know that they're, really QE3 is really ongoing. There's no such a thing as it's not.
Right. We're talking the official announcement, the official admission of the.
What it means official is on the balance sheet. Okay. In other words, the actual showing of money that's on there. If it's off of the balance sheet, and let's say they do a swap with Europe and the United States, of course, then you can purchase these bonds, but it's off balance sheet and it's hidden in swaps. So the Europeans will have. Europe has their euros over here. They convert it into dollars, and those dollars over here purchases the bonds. And the reason it's off balance sheet is because it has to be reswapped, let's say a year from now. But it's never reswapped. It just goes on and on. The transaction just is re-engineered every year, and that's why this is the shadow banking industry. And this is probably what's happening. So I want everybody to understand is really it's ongoing. Everybody, Europe, they're buying their own bonds. They have to be. The question now is do they put it on their balance sheet or not?
Exactly. Let's talk also about the other big political issue that was reported tonight. I don't know if you've had a chance to see it or not, but the FT, Financial Times, reported tonight that the Republican Party is set to announce a gold commission with the purpose and goal of returning the U.S. to a gold standard, and they're set to make that part of the official Republican Party policy. So I'm not sure if you heard that story or not, but it looks to me like a ploy for Ron Paul's supporters personally. What are your thoughts on the issue, Harvey?
Well, it certainly goes for Ron Paul. I mean, that's exactly what he's been standing, and maybe as one way of getting his side of the folks on with Romney and the way of winning in this election. But politicians, it doesn't. I mean, they are in the paper business. And it's certainly not, if they go to a gold standard, I mean, wow. I mean, it'll certainly change the whole financial scene everywhere if this happens. But I don't think that they really have any intention of doing that. I'm hoping, it'll be great. We're seeing certain signs that they are trying to go back to gold. You're seeing it now used as collateral, and it's used as 100%, not as 50%. We're seeing that. So we're certainly seeing signs for the first time that gold is becoming money. We're seeing the Chinese for the first time saying silver is now as part of their official reserves, and they brought in 247 tons of silver imported. They don't produce too much silver. They produce quite a bit of gold, and I think they're the largest producers of gold in the world. They refine a lot of silver, but this is the first time they've imported silver and used it as reserves to go along with their gold. We're seeing Russia adding 600,000 ounces continually every month, and then you're seeing small Kazakhstan. You're seeing Mexico, a big ally of the United States, just bucked the Americans and says we're buying gold, and it did. So you're seeing various countries now for the first time saying we're thank you Americans, but we're sticking with our gold. How about South Korea? I remember when I mentioned South Korea, when they asked me that at the CFTC hearings, I mentioned South Korea, and they looked at me as I was a nut. And the reason is because the United States has many bases out there, and South Korea probably the last country. But look, South Korea has been purchasing gold too. So we're starting to see allies of the United States purchasing gold and silver, and it's now becoming what it should be: money, not paper. Paper is nothing but a bark for a tree. And this is why all of you should do nothing but physical, because paper. When this thing implodes, you're going to get, you'll have nothing. You'll have a piece of paper and just be worthless. You have to have physical metals. in your possession. Okay, and I guess that's the message that a lot of us give. And don't be afraid, and just keep, every day, every week, just take some of your earned dollars and put away some silver and gold.
And I think what you mentioned there with silver, with China, I should say, adding silver to their forex reserves, that's probably the biggest story of the decade. And in my mind, China and other nations adding silver, starting to add silver to their foreign exchange reserves, will probably be the straw that breaks the camel's back of the cartel.
100%. I don't know if you caught, it was yesterday, they gave the demand figures coming out of China. Wait a minute, sorry, it was the demand figures of world supply of silver and where it was going. And the United States produced about 40 million ounces of silver per year, and yet the demand for silver of imports were about 77 million ounces. That was dramatic. I mean, so you imagine that the mint makes their coins, okay, and they're using up all what the United States produces, and then the demand of 77 have to come from somewhere. So it comes from Canada and Mexico and this. But you can imagine the demand is just phenomenal for this, and people just didn't understand. Just glanced at it, but didn't understand the gravity of how much the demand is coming from the United States for silver and the massive importing of silver. And remember, the United States is a very strong producer of silver, yet it needed to import 77 million ounces of silver last month, and that was for 5 months. So it certainly shows that silver is in great demand. It's in great use. We use this in our industry, in the pharmaceutical industry. It's it's a wonderful for burn units. It's a great antibacterial. It's now used in cancer research. It finds the tumors. I mean, every day they're finding new uses of silver that they've never thought before. And it's one of the greatest conductor of electricity. It's used in all hydroelectric wires. It's used in every computer. So and it's all in little particles and all little tiny things. And so it's the big difference between silver is, of course, silver is consumed, whereas gold, every single ounce that's been made is still sitting on Earth. It just happens to be moving from the public hands into private hands. But silver is consumed, and it's because of its great use, and I guess it fills a lot of the landfills there, and that's why the demand is so great. Yet the supply is problem. Was it Hecla Mining? They had a real problem, and their production is down 14%. So got a problem, and so you're seeing supplies are coming less from the mines because of all the stuff they have to get, and they're not producing. You're seeing every 2 or 3 months we're seeing another mine having little problem. Like Nickel Eagle had a problem a year ago where the rocks were unsettled, and they mined silver and gold, a lot of silver, and they had to stop the Goldex property until they figured out how to solve that. They had Newmont, and then you have problems over in South Africa. Then you got Peru, having problems. You got strikes. So that the production of these metals are becoming slower because of all the extraneous problems. So supplies are lower, demand is higher, so prices must rise.
And it sure looks like we're seeing the beginning of that. It looks to me like gold is ready to make a rally back to its all-time nominal highs around just over 1900. Silver has a ways further to go before it makes a run to its nominal highs near 50, but great bullish signs for both to start this week. Well, it's always great having you, Harvey. Before we let you go, why don't you let our listeners know where they can find your work?
I'm at www.harveyorgan.blogspot.com, and I write Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. I spend a lot of time on the physical side of things, which and is the same as you guys, and I think it's great. We complement each other, and then I give some stories as to what is important on the silver and gold side. And I just hope you enjoy this. And I read yours every day, and so I get a sense of how this thing is going to collapse. And my suggestion to you, all you guys, is as quickly as get as much physical silver and some gold as you can, because you're going to need some. Okay, so that's my warning to all the listeners out there.
That's the take-home message. Get as much physical metals, particularly silver, but also gold, as you can. Well, thanks again for your time, Harvey, and we look forward to talking to you again soon.
Anytime.